There are moments when a tennis player wins a match, and then there are moments when a victory changes the way the tennis world looks at that player. Alex had one of those moments in Cincinnati. The 21-year-old Filipina sensation walked onto the court at the Lindner Family Tennis Center to face a player she had never beaten, never studied across the net in an official match, and never even faced before. On the other side stood world number 10 Amanda Anisimova, the 9th seed at the $7.4 million Cincinnati Open, a 4-time WTA champion, a former world number 3, a 2-time Grand Slam finalist, and one of the most accomplished players Alex had encountered all season. By the time the match was over, another top 10 name had been added to Alex's growing list of victims, and the stadium had once again become a sea of Philippine flags, chants, and noise. But the most important part of this story isn't simply that Alex defeated Anisimova. It's how quickly this has stopped looking like a surprise. Alex is beginning to build a pattern, and patterns are what make the tennis world start paying attention. Just days earlier, she had entered the third round after a strange and abbreviated match against Elena Gabriela Ruse. Alex had been in complete control, attacking from inside the baseline and refusing to allow the Romanian time to settle into rallies, before Ruse retired because of a right foot injury. The match lasted only 34 minutes for the first set, and Alex had won 9 consecutive games before the contest ended. The numbers showed just how aggressive she had been, taking 71% of the points behind Ruse's first serve and 78% against the Romanian's second delivery. But there was another layer to that victory. Ruse was the player who had stopped Alex in the final round of US Open qualifying in 2024, winning 3-6, 6-1, 6-4 and denying her a place in the main draw. This time, the circumstances were completely different. Alex had arrived in Cincinnati carrying the confidence of a WTA 500 champion, having just completed a breakthrough run in Washington, and she was playing some of the most aggressive tennis of her career. Yet the next challenge was on another level. Amanda Anisimova wasn't simply another opponent. The American had already established herself as one of the game's elite competitors. She had reached the semifinals of the French Open at just 17 years old in 2019, becoming the youngest American woman to reach that stage of the tournament in the Open era. She had also won the 2017 US Open girls singles title and had continued to develop into a major force on the WTA Tour. In 2025, she had captured 2 WTA 1000 titles, at the Qatar Open and China Open, and had reached the finals of both Wimbledon and the US Open. This season, she had gone as far as the Australian Open quarterfinals. And now she was ranked number 10 in the world and seeded 9th in Cincinnati. On paper, it was the kind of matchup where experience, ranking, and pedigree all pointed toward the American. But there was one thing the numbers couldn't explain. What happens when Alex walks into a stadium filled with Filipino supporters? Anisimova already knew about it. Before their match, she openly acknowledged that she had never played Alex before, but she knew exactly what kind of season the young Filipina was having. She also knew the atmosphere that followed her. The American had seen the videos, heard the stories, and experienced the phenomenon surrounding Alex during the North American swing. She expected a packed stadium, and she expected most of it to be supporting her opponent. Rather than complain about that pressure, Anisimova said she wanted to use the atmosphere to her advantage. She likes packed stadiums. She likes energy. She was prepared to embrace it. That confidence made sense. Anisimova had played on the biggest courts in tennis, against the best players in the world, in front of enormous crowds. But Alex had something else working in her favor. She had already developed a reputation as one of the most dangerous players outside the traditional group of established stars. Entering this stage of the tournament, she had already beaten 7 top 10 opponents during the season. Madison Keys, Iga Swiatek twice, Jasmine Paolini, Coco Gauff, Elena Rybakina twice, and Jessica Pegula were among the names on that list. Her victory over Pegula in Washington had been particularly significant because it secured the first WTA Tour singles title in Philippine history. Suddenly, what had once looked like isolated upsets were beginning to form a very different picture. Alex wasn't simply capable of beating elite players. She was becoming increasingly comfortable doing it. And that is what made the Anisimova match so fascinating. This wasn't a player Alex had already solved. There was no previous head-to-head record to fall back on, no earlier match to reveal how Anisimova responded to her pace, no familiar pattern to repeat. It was a first meeting between a rising 21-year-old and a world number 10 who had already experienced Grand Slam finals. Alex had to figure it out in real time. That is where her recent development became so important. Against Ruse, she had shown how effectively she could attack from inside the baseline, especially on second serves. She had been striking the ball cleanly, taking time away from her opponent, and using her forehand to dictate the direction of rallies. The conditions in Ohio were difficult, with humidity around 80%, but the weather hadn't slowed her down. Instead, she looked increasingly comfortable in the physical demands of the North American hardcourt swing. And now she had another top 10 opponent in front of her. The stage was set, the crowd was ready, and the pressure belonged to both players for very different reasons. Anisimova was defending the reputation that comes with being a top 10 player and Grand Slam finalist. Alex was trying to prove that her recent rise wasn't a temporary burst of form. The match quickly became another test of whether she belonged in this company. Alex played with the same belief that had carried her through Washington and Toronto. She didn't treat Anisimova's ranking as something intimidating. She treated her as another player who had to solve the problems in front of her. From the baseline, Alex used her forehand to control exchanges and force Anisimova into defensive positions. Instead of allowing the American to dictate the tempo, Alex repeatedly looked for opportunities to take the ball early and move forward. The importance of that approach was bigger than any individual point. Against a player with Anisimova's experience, hesitation can be costly. Alex had already learned during the season that elite opponents punish passive tennis. So she stayed aggressive. She trusted the ball. She trusted the work that had brought her this far. And as the match developed, the player who had entered the tournament as the established star found herself dealing with a different kind of pressure. The crowd was overwhelmingly behind Alex, just as Anisimova had predicted. Philippine flags filled the stands, chants followed the action, and the atmosphere carried the intensity of something much larger than a normal third-round match. Naomi Osaka had previously compared the energy surrounding Alex's matches to a basketball game, and that description captured what made these occasions so unusual. Tennis is traditionally a sport where the crowd is expected to remain relatively quiet during points. Alex's supporters bring a different kind of energy between those moments, turning every important point into an event. It has become part of her identity on tour, but the crucial distinction is that the crowd can only create an atmosphere. The player still has to win the match. And Alex kept doing exactly that. That is why this Cincinnati victory matters. The so-called Alex effect isn't only about ticket demand, Philippine flags, or the noise inside a stadium. It exists because the player at the center of it continues to deliver performances worthy of the attention. Toronto had already shown how quickly interest around Alex could grow. Washington had taken it another step further. Cincinnati now provided another piece of evidence. After winning her first WTA Tour singles title in Washington, Alex continued her North American hardcourt run in Toronto, reaching the fourth round of another WTA 1000 event. Then she arrived in Cincinnati and added Anisimova to her list. The result was her 10th career victory over a top 10 opponent. 10 wins against the world's elite is not a statistic that happens by accident. It reflects a player who repeatedly finds a way to raise her level when the quality of the opponent rises. There is a reason the phrase, top 10 hunter, has started to follow Alex. Her list of victories now includes some of the biggest names in women's tennis, and Anisimova's addition makes the collection even more significant because of what the American represents. She is not simply ranked inside the top 10. She has been there before. She has played Grand Slam finals. She has won WTA 1000 tournaments. She has competed on the biggest courts in the world. And Alex had never even faced her before. That makes the victory a particularly strong sign of how quickly Alex is adapting to challenges she has never encountered. The win also arrives at an important moment in her ranking journey. Alex had entered this North American swing with enormous momentum after her Washington breakthrough, and her results were pushing her toward the upper levels of the rankings. The target now was clear, the top 16. Reaching that group would provide a protected seed at the US Open, giving her a draw that could keep her away from the other top 16 players until the fourth round. For a player whose ranking has risen so quickly, that isn't just a number. It can fundamentally change the path through a Grand Slam. Instead of potentially facing one of the tournament favorites early, a protected seed creates more room to build a run before the most difficult opponents appear. And that is why every victory in Cincinnati carried more weight than the score itself. Alex wasn't simply trying to win another match. She was building toward New York. She was creating momentum at exactly the point in the season when the biggest tournament of the American summer was approaching. The US Open was scheduled to begin on August 30th at Flushing Meadows, a place that already holds a special place in Alex's story. It was there that she won the US Open girls singles title in 2022, and it was also where she recorded her first Grand Slam main draw victory. Now she was returning years later not as an unknown junior trying to announce herself, but as a WTA champion and a player established inside the world's top 20. She had also been selected to appear in the Stars of the Open exhibition event at Arthur Ashe Stadium on August 27th, giving her another opportunity to step onto one of the most famous courts in tennis before the main tournament even begins. The symbolism is difficult to miss. The place where one chapter of Alex's career began is now waiting for the next one. And Cincinnati has made that next chapter far more interesting. The victory over Anisimova wasn't simply another line on a results sheet. It reinforced a trend that had been developing throughout the year. Alex has beaten top players in different circumstances, on different courts, and during different stages of tournaments. She has come through difficult matches, handled pressure, played through demanding conditions, and carried an enormous amount of expectation from a country that has embraced her rise. In Washington, she became the first Filipina to win a WTA Tour singles title, defeating a series of major opponents on her way to the trophy. In Toronto, she continued her run at another WTA 1000 event. In Cincinnati, she faced a world number 10 in a first-time meeting and found another way to win. That sequence is what makes the US Open story so compelling. Nobody can guarantee what happens in New York. Tennis doesn't work that way. A draw can change everything. A bad day, an injury, a few points at the wrong moment, or an opponent playing the match of her life can end a tournament run immediately. But Alex has earned the right to arrive there with genuine expectations. She is no longer simply the exciting young player that opponents are warned about. She is becoming one of the players opponents have to prepare for. Even Anisimova recognized that before they stepped onto the court. She knew the season Alex was having. She knew the fan base. She knew the stadium would be loud. What she could not know was whether Alex would produce another performance against a top 10 opponent. She did. And that is ultimately the heart of this story. The noise surrounding Alex is real, but the tennis has to come first. Without the results, the flags and chants would simply be a fascinating side story. Because the results keep coming, the atmosphere has become part of something much bigger. Filipino supporters aren't just showing up to watch Alex compete. They are watching one of their own break through barriers that once seemed almost impossible. Alex has spoken about how meaningful it is to represent her country and how grateful she is for the recognition and support she continues to receive. That connection has become one of the defining elements of her rise, drawing comparisons to the way Filipino fans have rallied around other national sporting icons. But Alex's journey is still her own. She is creating a place for Philippine tennis on the biggest stages through her own results, one opponent at a time. And now the list includes Amanda Anisimova, world number 10. The $7.4 million Cincinnati Open became another chapter in a summer that has transformed Alex's season. Washington gave her a historic WTA title. Toronto showed that the success could continue at the WTA 1000 level. Cincinnati delivered another top 10 victory. The next destination is New York, and the stakes will be even higher. There is no guarantee that the momentum continues, but there is no reason to dismiss it either. Alex has spent the season turning expectations into results, and every new victory makes the next challenge more intriguing. The biggest question is no longer whether she can beat elite players. She has already answered that. The question now is how far she can go when the stage becomes even bigger. From a teenage champion in New York to a WTA champion returning to Flushing Meadows as a top 20 player, the journey has accelerated faster than almost anyone could have predicted. Cincinnati didn't create that story. It confirmed it. Alex isn't simply being carried by the crowd, and the crowd isn't creating victories that don't exist. The relationship works in both directions. The fans bring the energy, and Alex gives them something to believe in. Every win makes the next stadium louder. Every major opponent she defeats raises expectations for the next one. And every step forward changes the way the tennis world talks about her. That is what makes this moment so important. The victory over Amanda Anisimova was another top 10 scalp, another breakthrough on American hardcourts, and another signal that Alex belongs in conversations with the game's best. The US Open is waiting, and this time Alex won't be arriving simply as a player with potential. She'll be arriving as a WTA champion, a top 20 contender, and one of the most dangerous names outside the very top of the rankings. The world has spent months discovering the Alex effect. In Cincinnati, Alex reminded everyone that the real story isn't the noise in the stands. It's what happens when the noise fades, the ball is served, and she has to find a way to win. So as the Philippine flags continue to wave and another top 10 name disappears from her path, one thing is becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. Alex isn't just building a fan base. She's building a career. And if this summer has taught us anything, the next chapter may be the most important one yet.